Good night, this is Fumi's Sleepy Time Stories. Tonight's bedtime story is about to begin.
Once upon a time, there was a prince who, on a sudden whim, decided to travel the world, bringing only a faithful servant with him. One day, he came to a vast forest. When night fell, he couldn't find a place to stay and didn't know where to spend the night. At that moment, he saw a girl walking toward a small cottage and quickly ran up to her. He discovered that the girl was not only young, but also beautiful. He greeted her and asked, "Good girl, may my servant and I spend the night in this little house?" "Sigh," the girl said sadly, "you may, but I advise you not to." "Why not?" the prince asked. The girl sighed and said, "My stepmother is a witch, and she especially hates strangers." Then the prince realized he had come to a witch's house. But since it was already dark and he couldn't continue his journey, and since he was a brave man, he followed the girl inside. The old witch was sitting in an armchair by the stove, her red eyes staring at the strangers who had entered. "Good evening," she said in a hoarse voice, trying hard to appear friendly. "Come in and rest your feet." She stirred the fire, and a small pot was simmering on the stove. Before entering, the girl had warned the two guests to be very careful and not to eat or drink anything, for the old witch was brewing a magical potion. They stayed quiet and slept through the night until morning. As soon as dawn broke, they were ready to leave. The prince was already on horseback when the old witch said, "Wait a moment. I'd like to offer you a farewell drink." While she went to get the wine, the prince quickly rode away. When the evil old witch returned with the drink, only the servant remained, packing their belongings. "Give this cup to your master," she said. But the moment he took the cup, it shattered, and the poisoned wine splashed onto the horse, which immediately fell dead from the poison. Frightened, the servant fled and caught up with the prince, hurriedly telling him what had happened. But he couldn't bear to leave the saddle behind, so he ran back to retrieve it. When he returned to the dead horse, he saw a large raven perched on it, greedily feasting on its flesh. "Who knows if we'll find anything better today," the servant thought. So he killed the raven and brought it with him. They wandered in the forest the entire day, unable to find a way out. As night fell, they came upon an inn. Exhausted, they entered without hesitation. The servant gave the raven to the innkeeper to be cooked into a fine meal. But to their great misfortune, they had entered a den of thieves. In the darkness, 12 murderers crept in, planning to kill the strangers and rob them of their money. However, before carrying out their plan, they all sat down to eat the raven stew, joined by the innkeeper and the old witch. But after only a few spoonfuls, they all collapsed and died, for the raven had eaten the poisoned flesh of the horse, and the poison had entered the soup. The only one left in the inn was the innkeeper's daughter, an honest and kind girl who had no part in the evil deeds. She opened all the doors for the two strangers, showing them the treasure stored inside. But the prince said the treasures now all belonged to her, and that he wanted nothing. Then he and his servant continued their journey. They traveled for a long time and eventually came to a great city. In this city lived a very beautiful but incredibly proud princess. She had declared to all that she would marry anyone who could present a riddle she couldn't solve. But if she did solve it, the one who posed the riddle would lose his head. She had 3 days to solve each riddle. Being extremely clever, she had always found the answers in time. Before the prince arrived, 9 men had already died after she guessed their riddles. But the prince, captivated by her beauty, was willing to risk his life. He went to the princess and gave her a riddle. What is something that kills no one, yet killed 12 people? The princess had never heard such a thing, and couldn't imagine what it could be. She searched through all her riddle books, but found no answer. For the first time, her intelligence met its match. Not knowing what to do, she sent her maid to sneak into the prince's room to listen in on his dreams, hoping he might talk in his sleep and reveal the answer. But the prince's clever servant was sleeping in his master's bed. As soon as the maid came in, he pulled off her cloak and chased her out with a whip. The second night, the princess sent her personal maid to try her luck. But again, the servant pulled off her cloak and whipped her out of the room. On the third night, the prince felt confident he had won and returned to sleep in his own bed. This time, the princess came herself. She wore a misty gray cloak and sat by the prince's side. Thinking he was asleep, she spoke softly, hoping he, like many others, might reveal secrets in his dreams. But the prince was wide awake and heard everything clearly. The princess asked, "What kills no one?" The prince replied, "A raven that ate the poisoned horse and died from it." She asked again, "And what killed 12 people?" He said, "The 12 murderers who ate the raven's meat." Realizing she had learned the answer, the princess tried to slip away, but the prince held tightly to her cloak, forcing her to leave it behind. The next morning, the princess announced that she had solved the riddle and summoned 12 judges to bear witness as she gave the answer. But the prince asked for a moment to speak. He said, "She sneaked into my room at night and asked me for the answer. Otherwise, she would never have known it." The judges asked, "Do you have any proof?" The servant brought out 3 cloaks. When the judges saw the misty gray one, which the princess often wore, they all said, "Embroider this cloak with gold and silver thread. It shall be your wedding robe."